Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Knighted Ones podcast. This is episode number 30. Wow, 30 episodes in already. Welcome to the show. As a reminder, we are the only podcast that features a UCF National Champion who's out of power, so he's not here. Former UCF radio host who's also got issues and is not here. An infamous rapper who is here. We'll talk to him a little later. An IG star who is sick and is not here, and me, shooting the breeze, talking UCF Sports. Welcome to the show, another exciting show. We get to talk a little bit of hoops as we trend towards the end of the season, and we get into postseason, although some of our peers in the P5 have decided not to participate. It equated to a UCF home game that I will be attending tomorrow night, so forgive no green screen, but I am working remote and coming to you live from Orlando. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring in Nobra. Oh, I guess he didn't bring himself in.
Yeah.
There it is. He finally got it. It's been 4 weeks. 4 weeks and he got it. I'm excited. Thank you.
I was waiting to get brought in and then it was delayed a little bit.
Yeah. I usually bring you up, but you bring everybody else up and do everything else. But I usually bring you up, and I thought this time you were going to do it, but I was supposed to. Anyway, you're here, and it gave you just enough time to remember your intro. So glad to see you. Thank you for being here, unlike all the other slackers on the show tonight. So welcome back.
Glad to be back.
All right. And next, last but not least, but always last, and it's only me, Nobra, and Josh. Welcome back, Josh Lazar. You didn't have to wait this long.
I know. I would start off with like, I wish I wish was a little bit taller. I wish it was a baller. I wish I had a girl in the good. I would call her. There's so much basketball going on right now, so I have to go run it back. You know, you take the vinyl and
Josh, stop while you're ahead, bro. Yep, you're done. Stick a fork in it. However, that being said, we are running it back this week. We're with our cousins from Southwest Central Florida, who will be visiting the arena this week. So I'm excited to be going to that show. As a reminder, last season, unfortunately, they swept us. So this is an opportunity for us to put a further damper on their season, as they came in expecting to be tourney bound and instead went to the NIT and are going to be coming to our house to play. So super excited to watch that game. I've got mid-court tickets about 4 to 5 rows up from the court. I'll be attending with my daughter, and I hope to see all of you there as well. So, Josh, welcome back to the show. Hope you had a good week. Let's get right into it. Do you have any text talk for us this week?
Sure. And as a teaser, if you want to listen all the way to the end of this podcast or watch our beautiful faces, we'll talk about the cows and the NIT in my fun fact. So, yeah, we were talking about all kinds of stuff this weekend because it was a week two. There's lots of sports going on, even though it's at the end of some of them. And when we were talking about baseball, Roger had a really hot take when we weren't doing good against Oklahoma State.
Of course you would bring this one up.
Okay. Now, listen, this was the second game, and I think Holiday was their pitcher, who he was on fire. He was 100.
His breaking ball was ridiculous.
It was getting everyone. He's about 110 pitches deep, which I even said something like, I didn't know coaches let players go that deep anymore, because that's a lot of pitches. I'm not going to lie, but that was the reason they were winning that game for most of the game. And Roger said, it's been the Holidays night. Game is over. I think this was at like, we were only down by
bottom of the eighth. It was the bottom of the eighth, like after the eighth. And we were getting ready to go in the ninth, and you know, to your point with Holiday, I mean, he was dealing. We got those 2 runs early, and we actually led most of the game, and then we brought Santala in, and Santala could not find the strike zone early, and was all over the place for about an inning and a half. And then they ended up scoring. It was 3-2. We went to the bottom of the eighth. It was 112 pitches, actually, Josh. He pitched. And at that point, since he was striking people out, I think he had 7 or 8 strikeouts at that point. And I get it. He's 112 pitches in, but like I said in the message, Ben and I were going back on this.
That we have. I wish he was here today. Yeah, it was pretty strongly worded. So two things I had on that. Right after that, I said, let's see what happens. And fun happened. We also were talking about I think I said something like was it probably why Santala was put in not sure if we're coming back from this, but let's try, right? And Roger said we aren't. Hitting hasn't been there, which was true until a point. And I said probably why Santala was put in there. We needed to try to get a deep save. Now he tries to get a win. So it was some fun banter. Ben laid into Roger. It was,
but I still stand by my assertion. If they would have, now again, like I said in the text talk too, the thing about Holiday for them was the previous game had been such a blowout. They had gone 3 or 4 deep into their bullpen, and they didn't have any arms left. So when Holiday, early on, probably the 6th, I think it was the bottom of the 6th, they were warming up pitchers from the bullpen to bring them in, and they just let him ride. I don't know if he was dealing the way that he was. I don't know, because we kept chasing pitches. There was no way we were hitting that breaking ball thankfully, but I don't know why they didn't just leave Holiday in, considering how many arms that they'd used the previous day for the last inning. And then, they switched pitchers, and what I had said earlier in the message as well, in the text thread was, if they leave him in there, they will win this game. And, if they switch him out, we can hit him. We couldn't hit his breaking ball. We just could not hit it. So it was frustrating. And I still don't understand their coach's decision on taking him out at 112. I get it, but you're already at 112 pitches. If he gets 3 more strikeouts, what do you maybe 12 pitches more? I would have just left him in.
I think he left them because he only had 2. Gabe Davis, which great name, but Gabe Davis came in a couple of times, and he only got the 2 outs because obviously there was we won, and yes, Santala did get the win,
and we'll get into it a little more later. So let's go ahead and switch back to hoops. We have a couple games to talk about. We dominated OSU again in just about every sport but softball. If people remember, and I brought this up when we were talking with one of our sister podcasts that you guys were introduced to preview this game, we actually beat them last year as well in the tournament in an overtime game. And then we also played them in baseball many moons ago. I think it was like one of our teams that went to the regional, and we were hosting the regional. We won our first game against OSU. Then we played Florida State in a series, and then ended up losing that rubber match series, but we beat them then. So in just about every sport, football, basketball, we swept them, baseball, except for one game. And other than softball, which they have the number 7 ranked team in the country, we've held our own and then some. That sister podcast was like, can we kick UCF out of the conference now? Because I think we may have finally found, I guess we are their Tulsa. It's a reverse Tulsa because they're from Oklahoma as well.
No one who's a longtime UCF fan wants to hear the T word and or what they're called backwards.
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
But Nobra is off camera, but he's consternated right now because he's trying to figure out what you meant by Tulsa spelled backwards. Nobra, nobody can see your facial expressions. Just read it backwards and you'll figure it out.
Yeah, this is why you have a side conversation in the podcast while you're recording it. So
you gave it to him. What? No, you had I was watching him think.
He got it. He got it. So here's I like this. So I actually think Oklahoma State, if we can start, if they start winning some things outside of softball, this could be a potential rivalry. I don't know. I like the banter. I like this. They are Cal related, so it kind of fits and tracks. I don't know. I feel like that's a possibility.
It would
And
be
they're
good
going to want to beat us for a while.
It would be good because OSU is one of those teams from the leftover 8 that was expected to continue to dominate the conference once Texas and Oklahoma left. So, if we that's the kind of company I'd like to keep as far as a rivalry is concerned. I'm not necessarily sure OSU's the rivalry I want, but if it happens organically, I'm good with it.
Yeah, I'm with you.
All right. So going back to the game, UCF dominated this game from start to finish. I mean, just like I talked about, and we talked about this on that preview, UCF was going to try to body them. They didn't have the length. And if, our defense was going to hold them in check. And the thing that Oklahoma State's podcaster brought up was the fact that they go on even more, they go on the anti-run, right? So basically they go dead and don't have any offense for long stretches. That's even longer than what we do. And they went for, I think, 13 minutes without a score, bridging from the end of the first half into the second half, which was crazy. I mean, that's even worse than us. Part of that was defense. Part of that was they just went cold. But we were able to pull away after halftime with a real big run. Diallo finally got used like a big should be used. We ran the offense through Diallo now 2 games, right? We did not do that with BYU. We could not do that with BYU. He did have a double-double this game, 17 with 17 points, 17 points and 11. And he just dominated the paint, and that's exactly what we could/should be doing. CJ Walker contributed 12, and DJ had 11 points. So a pretty solid game by Diallo.
Yeah, that's this game, and we know that Oklahoma State isn't the Oklahoma State of like 5-10 years ago when it comes to basketball, but this is the game we should be able to play when we are bigger than the other team, and we're actually driving the paint, because we did well from 3, but we didn't take a ton of them. So this is when some of us were watching this game, we're like, okay, maybe BYU is a possibility if we play the same way or we try. And well, we all know how that worked out. But when we are on these runs, like, not only, you were right, they went cold, but that our team was feeling ourselves in the beginning of that second half.
It isn't even that. I mean, the big thing is, is the 3-pointer from Darius Johnson. The last 4 games has been a lot better. We mentioned it last game. It looks like he's hit his stride. I mean, the next game he played, he scored 33 points, right? So, which was a high for him. And he's a lot more comfortable in that shooting guard type of position. He can drive the paint. He can body people, but he's finally got that rainbow shot down. And the most important thing that I'm seeing from him is that he's using movement or an extra pass to create space for himself. So he has a set shot. He can set his feet, catch, and shoot. And that's been huge for him and different than what he has done all season long. We shot 50% from 3 in this game, which just shows the comfort level. Shot 40% from the field, limited OSU to 37% shooting. And they can get hot on 3s as well. They're a small ball type of team. And largely that was because of, the transfer portal and NIL. They lost a lot of their big players. So Musa Cisse, and they just lost their center that we played, who's transferring as well. So
2 and Small, I think, from that. They lost 2. That actually, 2 people actually are transferring out. I mean, the coach leaves.
But Small was a transfer from ECU to OSU, and now he's leaving again. And yes, one of the things we talked about on that preview podcast was that OSU was close to firing their head coach, and it ended up happening. UCF also on the boards, we just dominated as we should, 43-37. And we won the points 24-18. And, like you said, driving the paint, we've been screaming about it all season long. And they drove the paint and got 13 more free throws than what OSU did.
Yeah. It should be relentless. I mean, that's if it waves, just start throwing. I don't want to say start throwing bodies, but like DJ driving, Sellers getting more comfortable with that level of his game. Like he's a good basketball player, but there seems to be times where he's removed from the offense or by himself. I don't think, or ball just doesn't rotate around to him, but you see he's building up some dominance, getting Diallo in there, getting C in there. I think we'll see what happens, and we'll talk more about the game coming up against the Cows. But when we do really well is when we drive the paint hard and we make sure that we're getting fouls, that we're being active on the boards. That's when we really do well. Now, it's interesting because from everything I've seen so far, the Cows are a very BYU-like team with guard play and other things. So this is going to be an interesting game too, and we'll get to that when we get to that. But that's to be what we do. This is our identity. It is bodying people, doing enough at the 3-point line to pull people out, and hopefully the other team isn't the most smooth passing team. We'll talk about BYU soon. So we can press a little bit. So they start with 22 seconds on the clock to run their offense.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and flip over to that BYU game and then talk about that. None of us believed, given how the first game went and the second game went, that the third game would be an L. We all believed that this would be a dub for us. And unfortunately, that didn't happen. I guess they were hopped up on hot chocolate because they were on fire from three this game. And,
look at that crawl.
Huh?
Look at the crawl for the YouTube viewers. Third time was not the charm. Oh. Yeah,
for sure. So, when it came to BYU, they were just on. They were shooting from everywhere and just hitting everything. Utilized the extra pass. Their center came out to the 3-point line, had their first 2 3-pointers, and then and he's known for shooting threes. But again, you get a true 5, who's out there shooting 3-pointers, and that's going to be a long day. And we just kept getting picked at the 3-point line. They would just dribble, handoff, and block, and then they would pop a 3, and that was it. I mean, that was the game. Darius Johnson had 32 points. Antoine Jones played really well this game, got 13 points, and Sellers with 12. We did bring it close, and we're close to taking the lead, but then just kind of fell apart. UCF didn't shoot poorly. We shot 39% from the field and 40% from 3, whereas BYU shot 47% from the field and 46% from 3. But midway through the first, they were shooting over 80%.
Oh yeah, it was
almost
insane.
All the way through the second from the 3-point line. I mean, that's insane type of numbers and very, very difficult to overcome. BYU took 29 more shots compared to took 29 shots compared to UCF's 18 free throws. And this was indicative of the last couple of games. We saw a very rare charge get called, which was interesting. We saw some very, very questionable calls. One that should have been an and one that turned into a foul on a box out. Silla got called for a flagrant. He just did what you're taught, which is you're facing the rim, waiting for the rebound, and you stick your butt out to try to and get low to box out your opponent. That's what you're supposed to do. And For some reason, these Big 12 refs decided to call flagrant on that. And then the other call, there were some interesting out of bounds calls. And there was another one that was a goaltending call that was interesting as well. I don't remember who it was that was providing the block. I think it may have been Scylla or CJ Walker. And the ball hadn't touched the backboard, hadn't touched the rim, and smacked the ball into the backboard. It was still on an upward trajectory. And even the commentators during this game, there were some of these, I mean, they try to stay pretty biased and give refs the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
But they were just terrible calls. I mean, absolutely atrocious calls during that.
Yeah, and you know what? At the end, even there's sometimes when you lose by one, like I think we lost by one at home, or I was at that game. It was like,
well, that's why we lost. I mean, you shouldn't be going to this Cows game coming up.
I've been to a game where we have won. Thank you, but I will tell you. Yes, well, and every time I sold my tickets, I didn't see Kansas winning at home, right? So I will tell you this specific BYU game, the refs were probably not the best, but that's not the reason we lost this game.
I agree with you.
It's there are games where you're like, this looks like getting railroaded a little bit here and there. There's in the Houston game, there was three, and we talked about this last week. There are three horrendous calls. Like you can see the Houston's players' hand on the ball hit the sideline, and somehow they get the ball, and it was not one time. There were three, and I think they gave us a few makeup calls, but it's still it was bad. It was bad. This is we came out to a really poor start, and we couldn't get back into it to the point where we got
really
close.
Wasn't
like 4 points
that
close.
Bad of a start. It was a bad start defensively, and they were just hitting everything.
Well,
nobody hits 80%. Nobody hits as. I mean, they shot 33s during this game. 30.
Yeah.
And they literally almost to the half, they were shooting, and it might have been through the half. I don't remember. I'd have to look back through our text talk. They were shooting 80% from behind the arc. That does not happen in college basketball. It just doesn't.
You're right. You're 100% right. And I think it was a Khalifa who hit the first two, didn't attempt and hit anything else. But they were deep in their scoring. Like other than the one person they put in at the with 2 minutes left, like everyone had even amount of time. Everyone had relatively even amount of points. They just played really well as a team. And of the teams that we've lost to, the pinpoint accuracy of really adept passing and fine-tuned offense is something we just can't always defend against.
That's not what I saw. What I saw was a lot of extra pass and shooting a three-pointer. That's what I saw. Diallo
I'm talking on the break. I'm talking specifically on the break.
I get it, but Diallo, we can do that too. I mean, hold on. Let me finish the thought. When we score over 71, we're 14-3, now 14-4. Okay, our defense played okay. There were times that it played okay. Diallo was in trouble early. He was taken out, but we didn't really need him on a scoring threat. They weren't plugging up the paint. They weren't leveraging the paint at all. I mean, it was just straight up three-pointers. Points in the paint, 28 for us, 20 for them. It wasn't like they were dominating. Now, they had that second center, I can't remember his name, that came out there for Khalifa, who played a lot of the game, and he was more physical. Once Diallo went out and we had foul trouble, it was very, very difficult for us on the rebounding front, right? So rebounds were still 38-38, but we should have had an advantage there. But we didn't. And they were shooting three-pointers, and they just got too far ahead. I mean, they were leading by 18 at one point. They were up early. I think it was like 23-3. Or
it was 14-0 to start. So
Yeah.
it did. Yeah, it was 22-8 or something like that. That's probably what you're talking about. But yeah, but that's to my point. They got up early, and we could. This is not the first time an opponent has gotten a lead for a while. The first 4 minutes, first 6 minutes, even the Kansas game, we didn't score for a while, and eventually we get back in, but we just can't get over the top and take the lead. It's happened a lot. So I honestly think on the game coming up against the Cows, we're going to have to make sure we have a good positive start, even whatever that feels like. But I don't want to see us getting down 14-0 against them. That's just going to be a very long game.
I don't think it's going to happen. I think we're going to try to body them a little bit more. It's funny because I think last show or the show before I said, we were talking about the Cows and how well they were doing, and then they lost against UAB again for the second time. And, I had said in that show, I was like, I don't think, even if we played them today, in spite of the records, I think this team runs over the Cows, and now we'll get our chance. We will host them in first round action. There was a lot of movement in the NCAA. Yeah, exactly. You got it.
That's a hard move on there.
Yeah. Yep. Nobra didn't catch that. But there was a lot of movement. I'll enunciate that a little bit better for Nobra. So that, for us to even be able to host, because we thought we were going to host, and then a lot more teams that were, that you expected to win their championship game because they had won the regular season and had been winning convincingly, didn't. So there was some movement in the tournament. And because of that, some of those teams that we were expecting to be in the NCAA tournament, including from the Big 12, didn't, and were pushed into the NIT. So OU actually got pushed out, which was questionable, but it happened.
Yeah.
And they decided to step aside. There was talks of us playing LSU at LSU. OU said, hey, we're not going to participate in the NIT. So we end up playing the Cows at home in front of our crowd. So, Josh, I know you're going. I'm going. Are you excited for this game? What's your thoughts on this game? And what are we know ESPN thinks we're going to win. They have us at 77% winning, which is never good. But what are your thoughts on this game?
So I am excited to play the game. I then also go back into old school UCF fan mode, going, what's going to happen? The Cardiac Knights, right? I really hope I'm wrong, but there isn't so much to lose but pride, but there's a big pride to be lost there. And I will say this: I feel some of the parallels with us beating them when they're at their peak in football. Now, mind you, that's 2017. I wish Trey was on here. But in 2017 in football, we were really, really, really good. There is no bones about that. In basketball this year, we're all right, which is okay. And
I think we're more than all right. I think it's a product of the league that we're in.
I agree there, but also we might not have these players if we're still in the American. Right, that is a possibility too. But let's go outside of that. In that year in 2017, that was probably the Cows' best year in football, or one of them, top two. Maybe we'll use that. And
for those of younger listeners, what he's alluding to is the fact that the Cows in football were number 2 for 1 week, and it's their biggest claim to fame. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, and they were in the top 25 for a week this year too, or maybe 2. So here's the deal: this is one of their best runs in a while. I mean, they have won an NCAA tournament game, I think, once. They've won an NIT game a couple of times, but this is a pretty good year for them. I'm not going to lie about that. Even if the league's a little watered down, they beat some good teams. So can we?
They also have 2 quad 4 losses, and they have some pretty bad losses. And yes, they have had a good season: 24-7, 17-3 in the AC without us and some of the other people.
Yeah, they'd have another couple of losses if Houston was there, like everyone else in the country, pretty much. But here's the deal: if this is one of their better seasons, and we body them and we do really well, it feels again like 2017, where they have one of their best teams and we're just better. But if it isn't that, and we lose, it means relatively nothing in the scheme of life, or we already in the Big 12 and all this, but it's not gonna be a good time online, and a lot of people are not gonna be happy.
No, we need to win this game. So a little bit more background about the Cows. One, they have a new head coach, first-year head coach. He's done a really, really good job. Technically, they do like to shoot the ball. They've got some really, really good shooters. Their leading points leader is their guard, Youngblood. He's got 15.1 points per game. He shoots 45.1% and 81.7% from the free throw line. So if we get into a free throw battle, that's going to be tough. For us, it's still Sellers, believe it or not, at 15.6 points per game, 41.8% field goal percentage, and 82.9% on free throws. On the boards, they're pretty good. Our leading rebounder is Diallo, who averages 5.6 rebounds per game, which is good. 3.5 defensive, 2.1 offensive. But keep an eye on Pryor. He's a forward for UCF. He's got 7.8 rebounds per game, 6.3 defensive, and 1.5 offensive. Now, they're definitely better on the defensive rebounds per game, but we do really, really well when we get second chance points. So keep an eye on that. Also, assist leaders. Darius Johnson, 3.7 assists per game. Their second guard, their point guard, Reed, 3.2 per game. 1.5. I'm sorry, 1.5. Oh gosh, I can't remember. But anyway, point is assist to turnover ratio, right? Turnovers per game. He had 1.5 turnovers per game. That's what I was trying to say. And plays 23 minutes. Darius has 2.8. So it seems like it's more, right? But his assist to turnover ratio, 3.7 to 2.8. Slightly better for Reed, but he plays less minutes. So, if we get Darius Johnson that's been playing his mind out, for the last 3-4 games, we've got a really, really good shot at this. But Diallo is going to be important. Now, the big piece of this for them, again, their shooting guard is the guard Youngblood that I was talking about. He shoots 45.1%. They're a good three-point shooting team, and they're a good field goal shooting team. So we're going to need I'd say we're probably going to play a lot of zone to kind of push them out. And if the zone isn't working, we're going to do a man-to-man. But I would expect us to play zone, and then it's going to be about Diallo and whoever they leave back there. That's a forward, the fours basically that are going to be there to help protect that soft zone. And that's what I'm looking for in this game. If we get turnovers, then I think we run away with this game. So our defense is really going to be the key. USF, or the Cows as we know them, they shoot pretty well and they score. So our defense is going to be the key to the game. Right now, the guys out in Vegas are saying that we're negative 5.5 point favorites, which really means 2.5 point favorites because they give us 3 because it's at home. And everybody's expecting us to win. The key to me to this game is making sure that we're controlling that 3-point line and getting into the pass lanes as much as we can on defense. Everything else, I think, will take care of itself. That's my analysis of this game. And I really don't want to leave that game with a loss. I will say, pro tip for those of you that buy tickets through UCF, if you buy a ticket through UCF for any UCF event, If you do it through the UCF ticket office by calling in, 823-1000, by the way, is their number, and you need to switch your ticket for whatever reason, there's no fee for doing that. However, if you buy it online and you go through Ticketmaster, they will charge you $10 per ticket to switch, even if it's the same value. So pro tip, if you can, and you're going to an individual event, buy it through the ticket office if you can, because you can switch those without having a problem. And I won't tell you how I know that. But needless to say, if any of you want to give us a shout out, I'll be in section 106 mid-court, about 4 or 5 rows up with my daughter. Feel free to say hi. Josh will be there as well. He'll be I think you're in section 107 this time.
Yeah, same seats I've had for last 5-10 years or so.
Yep. So make sure to say hi to Josh Lazar as well. And also, before we transition to football, just a quick reminder, make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and comment. It really, really, really helps us out as we create content for you. So shifting gears, there's some football news. Yeah. So Josh, I'm going to let you start us off. You had an opportunity for Faculty Day to visit practice number 2. And I know you can't share a lot of things because you've been asked not to as a faculty member, but kind of give us some impressions on what you saw in spring practice.
Sure. So I will go through kind of what I can. There's one nugget of information I can't wait for this to come out, but it has to do with some people who are not on the team anymore. Maybe I'll tease that when it comes out. I'll tell more about it. But what I will say is this. So I guess faculty members who have players in their classes, or maybe it's some other variation, get solicited to see if you want to come see a practice. I'm like, I'm in. So I drove over to E6 and walked over, and the side of the gates were open where they were taking out the blocking, tackling dummies and things like that. And when I walked up,
Quick
there's
question.
a couple. Yes.
Do they check you in on a list, or can I just show up?
This was specifically open and they knew who we were. There was a list when we walked in. We'll get to that in a little bit.
Darn.
So, yeah,
I was going to say, next time I'm going with you. I look like faculty. I'm old enough.
I don't know if we'll get in that. So we're in these side doors. We're taking a look. It's when we walk in, it was Coach Malzahn coaching the offense by the time we got there, or I got there. And they were going to different defensive schemes and just, calling out things, seeing what's going on. And generally speaking, the two best things that I saw there were number 8's going to be good. Like
Burdell Richardson.
Yeah. Again, we're in shells. They weren't pads. This is shells. But I saw the videos of some amazing catches. I don't know if they released the videos of the things that I saw when I was there. It's consistent. How about that? I'll say that. It's consistent. So that was amazing to see. And one of the cool things as a teacher, and Coach Malzahn talks about this often. He, former high school coach, high school teachers, education is a big key. And what he does, what this whole team does in these trainings is education, of course, of the sport, but his ability to detail and analyze and understand everything that's surrounding him with brief looks and brief eyesight to something, it is phenomenal, as it should be, as someone who's been doing this for some time. There was one specific play, someone was out of position by a couple of yards. I just saw one quick nod. He passed over a piece of information to a coordinator to get trained up on what they did wrong. And I think that person was doing some push-ups afterwards. But like the ability to stand in one spot, know everything that's happening, obviously understands the plays, but go like, here's the correction, go, was really amazing to see live. That was wonderful. So at some point, sorry. Yeah.
Now, what did you, I know we're talking about Malzahn here. He's very experienced and all that. And that's awesome to see. What did you think about the vibe of the team? Like, what was the energy like? Like Malzahn's been talking about it. Like, there's more of an attitude, but we've heard about the dogs for the last 2 seasons. What was the vibe? What did you get from the confidence perspective and that sort of thing?
I'd say pretty darn high. I mean, from where I was watching, I was on the offensive side. I heard Coach Hand very verbally loud and aggressive in a good way, and coaching up and teaching. And it was a pretty good vibe. At the end, when we got to, it wasn't a scrimmage, but there was just one-on-ones and things like that. You can see the teams getting after it. It was, I know, again, it just shells, but you can feel it. I thought it was good. Now, let me give that as the caveat. The last time I went to practices is when O'Leary had practices open in the past. It's been a hot minute, right? But I went to a lot of those practices, and they were always grueling in the middle of a pretty hot summer or spring times when it was really hot. And still very, very segmented and regimented with it was very controlled in a very good way. And not say Coach Malzahn's isn't, but the fun factor seemed to be a little bit higher. Maybe not as much as Coach Frost's, I would guess, and we'll ask Trey maybe next time he's on and has power at his house. But I thought they were pretty excited. And I actually got to talk to some of the players afterwards, and we'll keep that there. But let's just say they were pretty excited too when I talked to some of them one-on-one.
All right. So kind of going along with that, we've had this past weekend was a big visit weekend as well. Recent news, we got a 4-star defensive back from Cedartown, Georgia, DeMarcus Gardner. He committed today. He's going to be ranked a high 4-star as well. And, adding to that defensive class that we have coming in addition to that, we also had another 2025 player that committed to us today as well. And that 2025 player, I'm sorry, DeMarcus Gardner was the 2025 player. The 4-star was also a defensive back, Tony Williams out of West Palm Beach. He is the 5th verbal commit of the 2025 class. And then later on, DeMarcus Gardner also committed. He's got a lot of more G5 type of offers. Seems to be a ball hawk, plays both sides of the game, has really, really good hands, had over 400 yards as a wide receiver last year, had 8 picks in 25 games played. So he's very, very active in the backfield. And we actually were there to scout one of his teammates, Tay, I can't remember his last name, who is a highly rated 4-star who actually committed somewhere else, but we're still recruiting him. And the coaches saw him there. He's 6'1" and 170 pound, or 6 foot, 170 pound defensive back. Saw him there, liked him so much that they continue to do that. He does have an offer from Kentucky, but as a 2025 commit, really hasn't hit the big time yet. But the coaches really, really liked him. Yeah. So that's exciting. And I imagine,
we're big time.
Well, yeah. But what I mean is, by comparison, the offer list for the guys that we go after are no longer G5. We're fighting Florida, FSU, Miami, Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama. We're Clemson, Auburn. Those are the offer lists that we see these days. So, for those of you that are wondering, that if you've looked it up and saw that, that's where that's coming from, is they saw him and identified him, while they were there for another recruit. And obviously with him being a teammate of the other fellow recruit, we're not going to stop recruiting Tay as well. So exciting stuff though, coming out in recruiting. 2025 classes are filling up. I remember, George O'Leary never got early commitments because he always said, take all your visits, blah, blah, blah. Once you're done and once you say you've committed here, I want this to be your final decision. Whereas now, we've got guys earlier and earlier in the cycle that are committing to us, which is great. These are both 2025 class guys.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, while it's great to see this, it's great to see this early. That's why I'm going to the time. If you're watching this live, well, not live, but in post, like we're not live. It's not April yet, and I know things have changed, but I think I remember sometime in the O'Leary era, and again, things were way different there with all types of, forgetting portals, forgetting timelines, but like we get someone for 2025 in like June, July, and we're like, oh, this is early, right? And it's just not that way anymore. And it's really, I did like his philosophy. I always want a student athlete or just a player to want to choose us and see other things and feel like this is where they want to go. And we're getting a lot of that.
All right. Let's go ahead and keep the ball rolling on football. Some other interesting news. We've been talking about the college football playoff lately, and it seems that there's been it's being reported that there's been approval by the conference commissioners. The presidents have given the conference commissioners approval to approve the new distribution. Now, the playoff format, there was a 5 and 7. It's going to be a 12-team playoff. They were floating 14 for a while, but there's a 5 and 7 format that they were floating. Then they were floating this thing where basically the Big Ten and the SEC would essentially have a bye for the first week. So that's still being negotiated per se. However, the payouts have been. Now, from what I understand, the negotiation tactic that was basically used was, hey, we're going to assign these based on the number of playoff appearances. Obviously, that's going to favor the SEC and the Big Ten. Obviously, ESPN wants to see more SEC teams in the playoff because, one, they draw eyeballs. Two, they own them now. They've gone away from CBS, right? So they own all the rights. And the thing is, too, that's troublesome. The eyeballs argument, yes, the bigger brands are consolidated. However, at the same time, when you're relegated to ESPN2 or ESPN Plus or Friday Night Game versus someone who's on, ESPN at noon or ESPN at 3 or 4 or the Big 12 noon game or, the Fox noon game, those exposure, that spot and those exposures on those ABC, on those channels are now going to those teams as well. So that's a little skewed. However, based on playoff participation, they have formulated it this way. It's $1.3 billion, $21 million per school for the SEC and the Big Ten. The next tier down is going to be the ACC and the Big 12. Obviously, the ACC has FSU. They also have Clemson. They have $13 million per school, and the Big 12 is getting $12 million per school. OSU and WSU, which is Washington State and Oregon State, who are now what's left of the defunct Pac-12, are only getting $360,000 a piece, which is crazy because the G5 is getting $1.9 million per institution. So I don't know why Oregon State and Washington State agree to that. Maybe there is a look in 2026 to readjust. Maybe they think they're going to reconstitute the Pac-12. But still, if this is going to be the criteria for it, anybody that they add are not going to have playoff appearances because the G5 playoff appearance teams were UCF, Houston, and Cincinnati. Well, not even playoff, but New Year's 6 bowl reps, so equivalent, because now the G5 will get a permanent playoff position. So $1.9 million. Now, remember, UCF fans, that in the G5, when we were playing in the AAC, we were making $9 to $10 million in total out of all of the distributions. So getting $12 million just for participating in the conference is phenomenal. We should be
For
pushing
us.
somewhere right for us. We should be
For
pushing somewhere around $50 million a year for distributions versus that 9 or 10 million. So if you include, and what I'm leveraging there is the NCAA tourney credits, which we now get to participate in, the playoff money, and the TV distribution, it should be right around $50 million a year, which it's not what the Big Ten and the SEC are making, but UCF can do a lot with that kind of money, and we will start getting full shares after the next academic cycle. So exciting news for UCF fans. Yes, it sucks that the SEC and the Big Ten are being paid so much more. However, it's still lining us up to be the third best conference. And with the 2026 look in, with FSU trying to get out, I imagine Clemson would try to get out after that too. If they start losing teams, that money will be redistributed. And I expect that after the SEC and Big Ten get their cuts of that money, we will also have a raise as well. So interesting times as the playoff drama unfolds. And that's all I really had for football this week. Was there anything else, Josh, that you wanted to mention?
I have a lot more on my visit to practice, and maybe I'll have a comparison one to follow up with. Maybe we'll wait till Trey can get on here and yell at a cloud. I will say one thing that I have not said anywhere else. So I have part of our business, we have a client in Arkansas, and we talked about KJ Jefferson actually in one of our client meetings, and everything they were saying about their experiences with him, it was like every single 60-yard pass is like a thing of beauty, and the intermediate in the middle type of passes are where it gets a little dicey. And we saw that on display a little bit. I will say the one thing that wasn't shared, and we've already kind of heard it in rumors before. That's exactly what played out in the practice. We saw some beautiful bombs and a couple of intermediate passes that at least one was picked. So that is, but again, it was practice too. They're in shells. He has time. I want to see KJ kill it, and I think if he can get with Coach Hinshaw and refine that part of it, it sounds like he's going to be a phenomenal player. Phenomenal.
Josh, I don't want to push that part off because the information will be stale. What else did you have from your
sure
that you're willing to share?
Sure. So I'll just roll back. We were looking at the offense for a moment. Went around to the side. Yes, there was a check-in, met with some of the academic coaches, talked some academics, which was really nice, with the academic advisors. It's been a while since some of the people I remember there. And it was, that part of it was really good. There was about 13 or 15 people there or so of faculty. And a lot of them I teach an online class, so they don't know me from anyone, but I have like a fifth of the team as my class or something like that. It's an insane amount. And so that was really good to see that part of it, because I know that a lot of people like, oh, it's just football. We're a sports team. This is a sports. No, academics means something, and it is good to see that. And even both Coach Malzahn and Christy, who came up to talk to us, emphasize that a lot. But getting back to that part of it, in the football side of it, here's kind of what I saw. It was shells, and it was getting good. Like, there was fierce competition, even on the one-on-ones. There was a lot of good quarterback play. Like, the defensive ends, not defensive ends, but the backside of the defense looked pretty good. I mean, we also saw some great passing with Kobe catching a couple. He actually had a couple amazing grabs, and I just feel like I wanted to go in and talk about the linebackers and look at the linebackers, but it wasn't really enough to see. It wasn't a real scrimmage, so there's really is almost like 7-on-7 drills. But I hopefully will be able to go back and see some games, practice and pads, and if there's anything interesting there, I'll let you know. But the excitement, like Roger said, was there. Everyone was you can feel it. Like, you can feel that they were in their zone. They loved being back out there. And I really feel that I understand why Coach Malzahn is excited. I can see that.
All right, awesome. It is spring practice, so people should be excited. The grind of the season hasn't hit yet. Trust me, I know all about that. But at the end of the day, I do feel like I'll be interested to see what your takeaways were and who stood out to you. Because you can tell even when in shells, you might put pads on, but you're still going to be, if you've got receivers with speed that are outrunning DBs, or someone who's got really, really good crisp routes, or and defensive players that were standing out. Anybody stood out to you?
Oh, RJ. I mean, duh. But actually talking to and seeing RJ, like, the strength and conditioning program is doing well, and I was shocked at how muscular he is, and I think he's even bigger than he was before. And he was not a small dude. So yeah, RJ. It was hard to see on the running back side of it, but RJ, like, every time he had a touch, it was good. Johnny was also as good as advertised as always. There was I gotta go by numbers. I might have to check my sheet. There was the corner play was pretty good, and it's Kobe has a shot to get to the league, right? And Richard might too. X was doing some things that were impressive. I really think that we definitely had a big two last year, right? And then X and a couple other people were kind of filling, Pittman and tight end were filling in on who is getting the ball out in the field. I actually think we might have a solid 3, if not maybe 4. We'll see how that plays out in the spring game and in that season, but I wouldn't be shocked if we have like three players with maybe 40 to 50 catches plus, maybe, unless if you double Kobe, then go into the other side of the field, or at least kind of shift over. I wouldn't be shocked. That part of it was absolutely surprising, and it shouldn't be in the Gus Malzahn offense. I will say Risk, number 10. He was the QB that was out there the longest beyond practice. He was putting in reps way beyond most other people, but a lot of people just had to get to cold tubs. So I got that. Also, I did talk to some of the some of the people in the defensive line, and yeah. Two things. Lee Hunter is bigger than I expected.
He's a big human being. Yeah, he's a big human being.
He's very nice, and like, you can see why people are excited. Like, he can knock it out of the park and have a good shot at the league, because you can see it. You can, and I think when he came in, he was big. Like, he needed to get more exercise and refined in who he is as a player and as a person. And I think he's there. And you saw it last year. Like, he's almost a one-man wrecking crew at times, and it might be even better. Another person I talked to a lot, and he was really nice, Ricky Barber, and I just hope he stays healthy the entire year. I have a feeling he has another shot of doing some really big things.
Yeah, we were expecting him to stand out this past year, but we've got a solid rotation, and he doesn't have to play every play, every down, because of who we have with Lee Hunter and Walker. So that's going to be trouble. And Walker with another year under his belt as well. Lee Hunter started coming into his own, was in better shape last year, so I'm expecting big things from all of them. All right,
one last thing. How about one last thing?
All right, Ben.
One more thing. The linebackers. I know that was a big question mark, and I only got to see so much of that. But I would say in conversations, we might have more than we expect. Like, if we are replacing Johnson, that's a hard person to replace. And Yates, even though Yates again was very serviceable in the times he needed to be, I think we have the potential solution. From what I've been hearing, I haven't seen, but what I've heard, there could definitely be 3 or 4 people that are going to work out. We all hope it happens, but that was something I was looking to see, and it's kind of hard when you're in shells. You can't really tell. To me, from my untrained eye, I need to see a scrimmage. It's not like I have, Trey over here who could just look at a practice and see who the heck is doing that level of good. Like he probably knows what those drills should look like versus me needing to see it in a actual play put together.
All right. Awesome. All right. Let's go ahead and transition to UCF baseball. Pivot. Yeah, exactly. Pivot. UCF beat Stetson 7-1. Stetson's typically a fairly good baseball team. We have a lot of history with Stetson. It's always good to beat Stetson. After Stetson, we played an Oklahoma State series. So we were talking about that a little bit earlier. We obviously won the series this weekend, but it was a little crazy. The first game, it was bombs away. It was homers. We saw homers. We saw 3 errors by Oklahoma State. And folks, just so you know, I mean, this was a team last year that tied for the championship for the conference last year. So this is a good baseball team. They brought most of their players back. They had a lot of guys hitting in the high 300s, low 400s. We had Ben Vespi out there, and Ben acquitted himself very, very well. The pitching was good. The relief was good. And then we went into the second game, and that was just an interesting game. We came out with a hot start. Bats were active. We got 2 runs on the board early, and Stagliano was the pitcher, and for the second game, and he pitched really, really well all the way up until I think it was like the 6th. It was like the bottom of the 6th or something like that, and Coach Wallace said he was getting a little tired, so they decided to pull him. So that's good. It sounds like we have our Friday night and our Saturday night starter pretty well entrenched. And then Centala came in. Was it Centala or Kramer? I can't remember now. I think it was Centala.
I'll get it. I think it was Kramer, then Centala.
Kramer and then Centala. I think you're right. So then Kramer came in, and again, the pitching held their own, but the bats, we just could not hit Holiday. I mean, that sinker was nasty. His velo stayed up the entire game for those 112 pitches that he pitched. The comment that you constantly heard both on the radio from Mark Daniels and otherwise just watching him is he seemed to be getting better inning by inning. And my feeling was if we could get to their relief rotation, we'd be in good shape because they'd used so many arms the day before. And obviously from a mental state, I'd imagine it would be pretty difficult because I think they rotated through 4 relievers the last game. So their depth couldn't be good. So finally in the bottom of the 8th, we get Holiday out there. We get them out. It's still 3-2. So tight game the whole time. And they get one out. Then old Sundin comes up to bat and knocks one out of the park and ties the game. So then everybody's excited. It's like, okay, bottom of the 9th, we got 2 outs left. We're a tie game. It breathed new life into the team. Then after that, we load the bases. And it's, I think we had 2 outs at that point. We load the bases. Our hitter goes down swinging. So now it's 1 out left. Bases loaded. And then we have something I have never seen before in a baseball game. We had a walk-off, but it was literally a walk-off because it was a walk-off hit by pitch. I've never seen that before. What were you thinking when that happened? I mean, like, I was awestruck there for a minute. I was like, did that really just happen? I think even Mark Daniels was surprised because he's like,
Yeah.
and he's hit. He's hit by pitch. That's a walk-off hit by pitch.
So what you may not remember was Previs was hit by a pitch the inning before too.
Yeah.
Like there was a ground out, he got hit by a pitch and 2 strikeouts. So it happened in back-to-back at bats. So here, at the point where Gabe, I can't. It's hard saying that name as a UCF. Gabe Davis comes into pitcher Holiday,
who, by the way, is back with the Jags.
Oh, he is? Gabe
Yeah.
Davis? Oh, Jags. I thought you said Jets. I thought you said Jets. I'm like, what the? What's he doing? No, I'm glad he's with the Jags. He's back. He's back home. Hopefully, he was at practice, I think, and he'll probably, hopefully, be here a little bit more. So, Gabe Davis comes in, Sundin homers, and then and we're talking Sundin is homering on a 3-2. Then you get a walk, right? You get a sack, a sack bunt to advance, another intentional walk. Cedarburg gets walked, so there's mostly all these 3-2 counts minus the sack bunt. You see, like, once Sundin hits it and we're tied, I bet you everyone in that park was like, okay, here we go. We got it for us. But, it's still 3-3. It's, no one's on base, but this walk, sack bunt, intentional walk, you just felt the momentum going. Now, I didn't think that's how it was going to end, but sometimes most of us, whether you, I know, Roger, you have experienced this in sports when you've been competitive in sports. I've had it in some of the sports that I've played. You, dear listener, probably have experienced this at some point, maybe often or not. There's some time where momentum just gets to the point where you're going to win. Like and to me, like even more recently, it's like, I got this. Like, I feel like Jordan tongue hanging out. Like, there's 0% chance this other team is going to win. And I feel like once we started getting that momentum, that was it. It was done. It didn't matter how it was going to happen. I just didn't expect that. So I'm on my phone watching it because of all kinds of things going on in life. And I'm like, did that just happen? Yeah. And then I had to listen to it back and rewind it. Like, that just happened. And then we all on the text talk going, did that just happen? And then someone put the, I guess Homer Simpson in season 3 was hit by a pitch. Yeah, it was you. And then he won a game after being like laid out flat. So, I mean, I guess it's happened before.
Yeah, at least another one of those Simpson prediction, situations. So, yeah. But yeah, it was crazy. The next game, unfortunately, we didn't get that one, but we were 3-1 for the much needed 3-1 for the week, considering we had lost all 3 games to OU the previous week at OU. The first game was close. The other 2 were not. The last game in the series was not. We have not found our Sunday guy, which is important for rubber matches in baseball. You need to have a Sunday starter as well. So there's more to come when it comes to that. So we're up against FAU next. We played them already once this season and beat them. They have a pretty good baseball team. Last year, I think they went to a regional as well. So we're going to be playing the Owls for the return game. If we get that win and then get another series win, I think we've righted the ship. RPI is still number 7. We're ranked right around 43. So, a much needed win for this series and confidence booster for sure. All right. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about Josh's sometimes funny fact of the week. Josh, take it away.
That's me. And I would say, do you want to bring Nober in for this? Because if it's just you and me, I don't know. Is he camera ready? Do you think that's a good idea? What do you think? Oh, look at this. Roger's completely gone. All right. He's just pitching to me. So we are playing the Cows in the first round of the NIT. We all know this. By the time you listen to this, I'm hoping we've already won or you're about driving to the game. when is the last time the Cows have won an NIT game? Roger, who is no longer on camera, if you are watching this on YouTube.
The last time the Cows won an NIT game, I'm going to say is probably 2011.
So you're not close, but I'll explain why you're not close. So they have actually gone 4-8 in NIT games. They were at the NIT a bunch in like the 80s, or a bunch in the 80s, in a couple times in the 90s. So the last time they won a game in the NIT was the 1994-1995 season, where they beat another team that's become a little popular this year, St. John's, 74-68. They actually, I think, won 2 games that year and lost to, I think, Marquette, if I remember correctly, in game 3. So they haven't won an NIT game in a very long time. They did win a CBI, but yeah, that's kind of what's. If you want that, they won a CBI at sometime in the last 5 years or whatever. I think it's 2019, pre-pandemic. But NIT, nothing in almost 30 years. So let's not make it another one. They can win one with another team.
All right. Josh, you usually do the quick update on UCF Sports. I do see Alan did prepare the notes for us this week. He didn't mention track and field. Track and field was there this weekend. I was actually on campus with my daughter at a cheer competition this weekend as well. So I saw all the athletes roaming around while we were in between sessions, and I saw people from Cincinnati. I saw people from all over the place that were milling around our campus by the arena. So why don't you go ahead and give us that quick update?
Yeah, sure. So our women's tennis team, we're just not doing good this year. I can't say it any other way. We lost 3-4 to Oklahoma. We'll put the UCF scores first. We lost 3-4 to Oklahoma, close but no cigar. And against number 7 Texas, blanked 0-4. We play Cincinnati next, hoping we get a win. Now UCF men's tennis, on the other hand, they're doing quite good. They beat Southern Miss 7-0, and they play number 9 Texas next. So we've been doing pretty well in men's tennis. Maybe we get a good shot at a ranked win. We'll see what happens. UCF softball is also the only sports team, or pretty much the only sports team, losing to Oklahoma State, which we'll rectify in a couple years. But Oklahoma State's kind of good. They're number 4 in the nation. We lost 0-2, 4-10, and 4-6. So they were 0-3 for the weekend, and we play a little bit easier of a team. Number 3, Texas next. So the women's softball team, they played a hard schedule to start the season. And I don't know if we've won any of our games against ranked teams, but I think we've won almost every other game. But now we have this
well, they were close. I mean, South Carolina was the other big one, and we were close with all of them. And 2 of the 3 games this past weekend were close as well. I mean, close as no cigar, but they are competitive at least.
Oh yeah, we're not being blown out, and I mean getting close
this
to.
This is not the AAC, folks. This is a good softball conference.
Yeah, it's a good. That's the thing. It's a good everything conference, and easily top 3 in several sports. Obviously, football, I believe at this point, the number 1 conference for basketball. I don't care if you want to change net or not. It's still going to be the best conference in basketball. And we just kind of get Arizona and Arizona State and Colorado, who's doing pretty darn good too, coming in. Utah is no slouch either. I think they're in the NIT with us. So it's not like we're a slouch of a conference, period. And so to our earlier point, and we were talking about how are we doing in basketball 17-15, what do you think about the season? Pretty darn good. I know people don't want to hear it, but that's not bad. It's not bad. And I know a lot of people who are fans are like, we should have done better. And we saw some games we should have, but this is the conference we're in where we could be in the bottom 4 or 5 and host an NIT game.
Yep. And So if you going back to track and field, we are hosting right now Big 12 event this weekend as well. So March 22nd, they'll be back at home. The most recent event, the 100 meter dash, no surprise, Renaya Jones wins that event with a time of 11:60. And the team, are holding their own. So we've got a pretty good. We knew we had a pretty good track and field squad, right? We had the March 15th to 16th track and field event. We've got another one coming up. We're going to Gainesville for the Alachua after this weekend, and they're going to be competitive. I mean, this is a team that fostered, that went to the NCAAs the last 2 years to the championships. So, with Renaya Jones, leading the way, this team's going to be really, really good again this year.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And we're not even talking about golf. Like, golf's going on too, but maybe we'll throw our golfers in when some of these other sports start wrapping up. Because
I think we need to remind Alan that there's other sports besides football and basketball that we keep track of. So, Alan, no shade. We love what you do, but we're going to have to start injecting that again. All right, so that's all I've got for this week. A shorter show, but we've got half the crew. So, exciting week to come. Next week, I'm hoping I'm popping my collar. I'm not going to be doing that early, just for bad luck, for good luck. A good weekend of UCF sports and more to come, and just so many sports to go. As a reminder, we do have something coming. If you checked out my Twitter feed, I posted something about there. There is some big news coming. Again, that will be in April, but we're going to continue to tease you because we're almost there. Excited for the opportunities that are on the way. And thank you for watching us. And make sure to remember to like, subscribe, comment, and go Knights.
Charge on. See, I don't even have to have anyone else here. We can do it all at the same time. It's just me.